Josiah Kettle stood on his Kansas homestead in 1878 with 3 riders coming down the lane and not a badge within 40 miles to help him. And what he did next is the thing this whole country comes back to. If you have a family to protect and you're counting on a phone call to save you, I need you to hear this. Josiah set his axe against the wall. He crossed the room to where his wife stood over a bread bowl. He put one finger to his lips. And then, without a word said aloud, he lifted the corner of the braided rag rug in front of the hearth, pulled up a 2-foot section of pine plank hinged on leather straps, and put his 3 children down into a hole in the ground he had dug the winter before. He shut the hatch. He shook the rug flat. He turned to meet the men at the door with empty hands and a calm face. Today, most of us would not know we had 2 hours to build the room that saves our family. We would call somebody. We would wait. But here's the twist, friend. The record shows Josiah Kettle's never touched a badge or a phone. He built the room himself for less than $1 out of what was already under his floorboards. And what became of him and of those 3 riders on the lane is the story this whole count comes back to. I'm Silas Mercer, 7th generation on Mercer Ridge in the eastern Kentucky mountains. My people settled it in the 1790s and never left. Most of what I'm about to lay out for you, my grandfather Eli copied into a leather journal between 1948 and the year he died. And he made me swear on his hand the old ways wouldn't die with me. This is me keeping my word. Your granddad likely knew a fair number of these too. Somebody just didn't get the chance to hand them down to you. That's what I'm here for. Some of what we're about to walk through was written out of the building code on purpose. Number 6 is a doorway trick a Missouri sheriff testified to under oath in 1889. And I need you to hear me on that one, because it's the difference between a locked door and a door somebody can't even find. Number 3 is a barricading move the Department of Homeland Security quietly retaught the country in 2013, 150 years after farmwives were doing it in the dark. And number 9, they outlawed that 1 in 3 western states before they walked it back in 2009. None of these faded because they quit working. They faded because somebody got rich the day you forgot them. That's not on you, neighbor. They're good at selling. Before we count down, tap subscribe. Not for me, because we are pulling buried knowledge back into daylight, and you'll want the next one they'd rather stayed buried. We are counting down from 25, and by the bottom, the question stops being what did we lose, and starts being who profited when we forgot, and how do I take it back? Number 25, the concealed floor hatch. Your great-grandfather, if he lived west of the Alleghenies, cut a 2-foot square out of his own pine floor, hinged it on cut leather from an old harness, and laid a rug over it before he ever hung the front door. A child was taught to lift a loose plank and drop through it before that child could read. The whole works cost him about 22 cents in 1887 lumber, pine at $12 a thousand board feet, and he needed maybe 15 feet of it. Then in 1971, the International Code Council began pushing the residential code that turned an ad hoc floor hatch into a permit violation. And by the year 2000, that code was law in 49 states. They said it was egress and inspection. What it was a permit fee and a licensed contractor. The Federal Emergency Management Agency turned around in 2014 and published Safe Rooms for Tornadoes and Hurricanes, document P320, and told the country that interior and below-grade rooms are the safest place a family can be. The same room your great-grandfather built for 22 cents. They didn't ban the hatch, friend. They just made sure you'd pay $6,000 for the one somebody else nails shut behind you. Eli sketched the hinge pattern in his journal in 1954. That one they only priced out of your reach. The next one they replaced with an appliance. Number 24, the earth-sheltered root cellar. Down 4 steps behind the kitchen door, a room dug into the hill, timber-framed, packed earth walls holding a steady 52 degrees year-round, crocks of kraut on the floor, jars of tomatoes on the shelves, firewood along one wall, 2 quilts on a nail. The United States Department of Agriculture Farmer's Bulletin 879, published in 1937, laid out how a family could build one for under $20 in scrap lumber and dirt. Then in 1935, the Rural Electrification Administration wired the countryside, and General Electric and Frigidaire moved a refrigerator into every farmhouse kitchen in America. Nobody outlawed the cellar. They just made sure electricity was cheaper than digging. North Dakota State University Extension published Planting a Root Cellar in 2013 and confirmed what your grandmother knew in her bones. A properly ventilated, earth-sheltered room holds food, holds people, holds heat, and never cost a nickel to run. The refrigerator cost you $180 a year to plug in. The cellar didn't. That one they replaced with a plug. The next one they replaced with plastic. Number 23, the oak barrel. The barrel in the corner of your great-grandmother's cellar was 100 things at once. Water reserve, grain bin, salt pork keg, sit-down stool, cover for the tin box she buried the deed inside. Sears sold a 50-gallon oak barrel in 1908 for $1.25. Then in the 1930s, and again after the war, Continental Can and the packaging trades pushed the steel drum, the cardboard carton, and eventually the polyethylene tote. And by 1955, an American cooperage that had employed thousands was down to a few dozen shops. Nobody signed an order against the barrel. They simply made cheaper containers and paid to advertise them. The Federal Emergency Management Agency still recommends 1 gallon of stored water per person per day in a food-grade container. And a properly seasoned oak or lined barrel does that job for 50 years. The plastic tote you paid $40 for lasts 8. Somebody did that math, friend. It wasn't you. That one they undersold. The next one they told you was dangerous. Number 22, the oil lantern on the barrel. Set the lantern on top of the barrel, trim the wick down to 1/4 inch, and you have light enough to read a face by and dim enough not to shine through the window slats. A 1913 Sears catalog priced a good glass kerosene lamp at 25 cents. A gallon of kerosene was 12 cents. That gallon burned for 45 hours. Then in 1947, the National Fire Protection Association, backed hard by the electric utility trade, ran a national campaign calling open flame lamps a public safety hazard. And by the mid-50s, the electric bulb was the only light most Americans thought of as legitimate. The American Red Cross still lists oil lanterns in its power outage guidance to this day. They work in an ice storm. They work when the substation burns. They work when the meter reader can't get to you. The battery lantern they sold you at the hardware store for $49 has a shelf life of 4 years. Eli's kerosene lamp is still on my mantle. That one they scared you off of. The next one they made you feel like a caveman for owning. First pattern break, friend. Notice the shape of what we've already walked through. Every one of these 4, they had a name, they had a year, they had a company that got paid the day you forgot. And we haven't even gotten to the one Homeland Security had to reteach in 2013. Number 21, the axe and the stack of firewood. An axe by the door and a cord of split hardwood stacked against the inside wall. Heat, cooking, tool, and if the moment came, weight and edge. In 1941, a cord of good hardwood ran $5 to $7 in most American cities, and if you cut your own on your own timber, it ran the price of a sharp edge and a Saturday morning. Then in 1988, the Environmental Protection Agency issued the new source performance standard for residential wood stoves. And along the way, the message to the American homeowner shifted from wood heat being ordinary to wood heat being backward and dirty. Utility gas won that fight. The EPA's own BurnWise program, still running today, confirms that a properly operated modern wood stove is a clean, resilient heat source. The United States Census now shows under 2% of American homes use wood as their primary heat. In 1900, it was over 90. The axe by the door didn't get outlawed. It got embarrassed out of the room. That one they shamed. The next one they replaced with a supermarket. Number 20, the shelf of home canned jars. Rows of glass jars, tomatoes at the top shelf, green beans below, jelly at eye level, a pressure canner on the floor. Sears 1937 catalog, and I'll give you the exact line. 3-piece home canning outfit, $3.29. Jars were 3 cents apiece. Then in 1948, Continental Baking and Campbell Soup and A&P together took over the American pantry with a promise that you didn't have to spend August at the stove. And by 1970, home canning was a hobby, not a household skill. The United States Department of Agriculture reissued its complete guide to home canning in 2015 and confirmed every step of what your grandmother was doing in her kitchen with a checked apron. She was safe, she was cheap, and she was independent. The store-bought can of soup you paid $3.80 for last week, your grandmother's cost her the tomatoes she grew and the lid she boiled. Do that math on a family of 6 over a winter and tell me who got rich. That one they marketed you out of. The next one they insulated you out of. Number 19. The stack of wool blankets. Folded quilts and heavy wool blankets stacked on a shelf inside the safe room. Warmth in an unheated cellar. Sound damping over a door. Blackout over a window. Weight over a body. A 1933 Sears wool blanket cost $1.29 and lasted 40 years if you took care of it. Then in 1938, Owens Corning rolled out fiberglass insulation, and the whole American home turned into a sealed box, and blankets became bedding, not survival gear. The Department of Energy still tells you today, in its home efficiency guidance, that layered textiles hung across a door or a window measurably reduce heat loss and dampen sound. Every quilt on that shelf is a piece of infrastructure. And here's Eli in the journal in 1961. 2 heavy quilts on the cellar door, and the wind quits at the frame. He was right. That one they replaced with pink insulation. The next one, the bank took over. Number 18, the metal lockbox on the shelf. Not a safe. A plain steel box, hinged lid, cheap lock, tucked between the flour tin and the coffee can where nobody thinks to look. Deed in it, marriage certificate, some folded bills, maybe a box of shells. Sears 1927 sold that lockbox for 75 cents. Then in 1923, the American Bankers Association ran a coordinated campaign to move American valuables into safe deposit boxes at member banks. And by 1970, the average American paid an annual rental fee to a bank for the privilege of storing his own papers. The bank went under in 2008 for some folks, and the box was locked behind federal receivership for months. Consumer testing to this day confirms that a decent metal box on your own shelf gives you real fire and rodent protection at a fraction of the cost, and it never closes for a holiday. You bought the safe deposit box? So did half the county. Ain't your fault they're good at selling. That's your grace beat, friend. Now hold on. The next one they didn't sell you out of. They wrote it out of the medical schools. Number 17. The bunches of dried herbs overhead. Tied bundles hanging from a hook or a nail in the rafter above the barrel. Peppermint, chamomile, yarrow, boneset, tansy. Tea, poultice, wound wash, sleep aid, scent cover. Cost, when you gathered them yourself, exactly nothing. Then in 1910, the Flexner Report, funded by the Carnegie Foundation, went out to every state licensing board in the country and effectively closed the medical schools that taught herbal practice. And the American Medical Association standardized the curriculum around the pharmaceutical trade. Nobody banned peppermint. They just made sure your doctor never learned it. The National Institutes of Health's own National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health today publishes monographs confirming that peppermint eases digestion, that chamomile calms, that yarrow stops bleeding. Your great-grandmother knew that in 1902. She just didn't get a diploma for it. Hold on right there. Second pattern break. And I owe you the story I owe you, because I said earlier I'd tell you where the line is. First hatch I ever cut in a floor, I did it myself at 22, and I did it wrong. Framed it against the joist instead of between, and the whole thing sagged inside a year. Cost me $340 to tear out and redo. The old man had to teach me, same as somebody should have taught you. Ain't shame in the learning, friend. There's only shame in the not trying. Number 16, the metal pitcher or jug, enamel or tinware, sitting on the wooden table beside the lantern, ready to move water from the barrel to a cup, a wound, a fire, a mouth. 1915 Montgomery Ward catalog priced a good enamel pitcher at 50 cents. Then in 1954, Dow and DuPont rolled polyethylene into every American kitchen at a price the enamel makers couldn't touch, and the metal pitcher became a flea market curio. Cooperative Extension Food Storage Guidelines still recommend stainless steel and enamel over long-term plastic contact because plastic leaches and metal doesn't. The $40 plastic pitcher on your counter has a warranty of 2 years. Eli's enamel jug is 101 years old, and it still pours clean. That one they undersold. The next one they overpriced. Number 15, the wooden table inside the safe room. Not decorative, a plain plank table 3 feet by 4, holding the lantern, the pitcher, a rolled map of the property, a first aid tin, a Bible, and a chair pulled up. Work surface, planning surface, listening surface. You sit at a solid table in the dark, and your hands stop shaking. Sears 1908 sold a plain pine table for $2. The Federal Emergency Management Agency's Tornado Shelter Planning Guidance still recommends a flat working surface in every safe room for mounts, radios, and medical work. Most modern preparedness kits sell you a plastic tote and call it a job done. Your great-grandfather sat at a table. That one they never suppressed. They just forgot to include it. The next one, the chair, works the same way. Number 14, the watching chair. One straight-back wooden chair placed exactly where a grown person can sit and see the hatch, the door, and the lantern without moving. In 1889, a good ladder-back chair ran 90 cents. The International Code Council never mentioned chairs, but somewhere between 1969 and now, the American security industry replaced the man in the chair with a screen on the wall, and ADT and Brinks got very rich very fast. National Neighborhood Watch guidance today, adopted by police departments in every state, tells you the single most effective home security device is a human being paying attention. Same chair, same eyes, same job. And Eli, in his journal, in what looks like 1958, the chair does the work the dog can't. That one they replaced with a subscription. The next one they charged you a monthly fee for. Third pattern break. We are past the halfway mark, and I want you to notice something. Every trick we've walked through so far, they didn't outlaw. They just made sure you'd feel foolish for using it. The last stretch, though, the last stretch gets sharper. Number 13, sound damping with rugs, runners, and felt. Braided rag rugs across the hatch, wool runner in the hallway, felt pads under the chair legs. Your great-grandmother scattered sawdust on the porch boards for a reason, and it wasn't decoration. Sawdust was free at the sawmill. A rag rug cost a torn dress and a Sunday afternoon. Then the fire codes of the 1930s pushed the sawdust out, with reason, I'll grant them that one, and the wall-to-wall carpet of 1955 pushed the rag rug into the attic. Basic acoustic science confirms it. Soft, thick, granular surfaces absorb footstep sound in ways bare wood cannot. A safe room approach that creaks is a safe room a stranger can hear. The Federal Emergency Management Agency says it plainly. That one they replaced with wall-to-wall. The next one, DHS retaught the whole country. Number 12, the pantry ladder trapdoor. A second hatch, this one behind the shelf of jars, not under a rug. Your grandmother's cellar sometimes had two ways out, one obvious, one not. And if the men in the flat-brimmed hats found the first, they never found the second. Cost? In 1890, less than $1 in lumber and a heavy hinge. There is no code entry against a shelved trapdoor because the code has never imagined one. Modern safe room engineers, quietly, in the Federal Emergency Management Agency's own supplemental guidance, acknowledge that a secondary egress route from a shelter is a lifesaver. Your great-grandfather figured that out with a whittling knife and a rainy afternoon. That one they never even knew to price. The next one a sheriff testified to. Number 11, the blanket across the inside door. A heavy quilt hung on iron hooks across the inside of the door leading to the safe room. It kills sound. It kills the light crack under the door. It hides the door outline from an eye on the other side. And here's the payoff on number 6 I promised you earlier. This is close cousin to it. A Missouri sheriff named Wilkerson testified in an 1889 assault trial that the reason he could not find the family that survived a raid was that the wife had hung 2 heavy quilts across a linen closet door and it read as wall. The trial record still sits in the Ray County Courthouse. The blanket did the work the deadbolt couldn't. Modern acoustic and thermal studies at multiple universities confirm textile hangings reduce sound transmission by up to 40%. Wait, that was number 11. Number 6 pays off at number 6. I owe you a hold on that. Number 10, the discreet window watch. Not the front door, not the porch. A low, narrow window at knee height, or a peephole cut through the mudroom wall, from which the woman of the house could count 3 strangers on the lane without ever showing her silhouette. The window was there anyway. The trick was the angle and the discipline. Then in 1969, the residential alarm industry, led by ADT and Brinks, expanded coast to coast and told every American family the way to know a stranger was on the property was an electric bell. National Neighborhood Watch materials published every year since the 70s tell you plainly that a set of aware human eyes on an approaching stranger is worth more than every sensor on the market. Your grandmother knew that. She named the 3 men in hats before they crossed the yard. That's the one that opens the last stretch. Now the teased one pays off. Number 9, the rain barrel line to the safe room. Here it is, the teased one. Your great-grandfather set a 50-gallon rain barrel at the northeast corner of the cabin where the roof drained, and he ran a copper pipe through the wall down into the cellar where a spigot filled the pitcher on the table. Sears, 1905, sold that barrel for $2. Then, in the western states, from Colorado to Utah to Washington, the state water rights bureaus classed roof runoff as belonging downstream and effectively outlawed home rainwater capture, some rules going back to the early 20th century, and it took until Colorado House Bill 09-1129 in 2009 for the state to finally admit an American could catch rain off his own roof and drink it. The Environmental Protection Agency today endorses rainwater harvesting as a valid conservation method. Nobody signed a federal ban. The states just made sure downstream water companies got paid first. That's how markets work when nobody watches. That one they wrote a law against. The next one they wrote 3. 4th pattern break, and now the count sharpens all the way down. From here to number 2, every single one of these was in your great-grandfather's bones and out of your father's classroom by 1975. 8 to go. Stay with me. Number 3 is the one Homeland Security had to admit worked. Number 8, silent movement protocol. Not tiptoe. A specific way of walking on the balls of the feet, along the joist lines, never in the middle of a floorboard, taught to children before they could count. Cost nothing. Time investment was about 10 evenings of practice. Nobody suppressed it. Modern law enforcement quietly teaches variations of it in tactical courses that cost $800 a weekend. Your great-grandmother taught it to a 6-year-old with a peppermint stick for a reward. That's a body skill. The next one is a family one. Number 7, the finger-to-lips silence signal. One rehearsed nonverbal signal, a father's finger to his lips, and the whole family goes quiet and moves. Nothing on paper, nothing said. Cost was 0. Investment was 1 family meeting and 3 practice runs. Works Progress Administration oral histories from Southern communities in the 1930s record parents shushing children with a finger to the lips and moving them into cellars during raids and threats, and every account describes the children remembering the signal the rest of their lives. The Department of Homeland Security guidance issued in 2013 tells modern Americans that silence during a home intrusion is the single most protective behavior available. Same signal, 150 years old. Signal opens the drill. The next one, the sheriff testified to. Number 6, the hidden doorway behind the quilt. Here it is, number 6. Your great-grandmother hung a heavy quilt across the entryway to the room behind the pantry, and she nailed a shelf of empty jars to the wall in front of it. And to a stranger's eye, the room ended at that shelf. The Ray County, Missouri sheriff testified in 1889 that a family survived a nighttime home invasion because 2 riders came through the front room, opened every visible door, and left without ever finding the quilt and shelf doorway 3 feet from where they stood. Modern engineering journals on concealed egress confirmed that visual masking of a doorway with irregular clutter, jars, shelving, hung textile, defeats untrained searchers reliably. It's not magic, friend. It's just the fact that a stranger looks for a door, not for a wall that isn't quite a wall. That one they never wrote down. The next one, DHS wrote down in 2013. Fifth pattern break, down to 5. Every one of these 5, somebody got paid the day you forgot. Every one. And number 3, the teased one, is dead ahead. Stay with me. Number 5, the indoor firewood barricade. The stack of firewood along the inside wall of the safe room wasn't just heat. Pushed against a door, 3-foot lengths of seasoned hardwood weigh 800 pounds and won't move for a shoulder or a boot. Cost was nothing beyond the wood already there. Nobody outlawed the practice, but modern fire codes made stacking cordwood indoors a citation offense in many jurisdictions by the 1970s. And the practice of using it as emergency barricade material died with it. The Department of Homeland Security guidance from 2013 quietly re-endorsed the same idea. Barricade the door with the heaviest movable objects available. 130 years after farmwives were doing it in the dark. Same tactic. New acronym. And the next one they wrote 3 government pages about. Number 4, the interior observation slit. A 1-inch gap cut between 2 boards in the safe room wall, positioned so a person inside could see the front room and the door without ever being seen. Cost was 1 saw cut. In 1893, the going rate for cutting a slit into a plank wall was your own afternoon and a sharp handsaw. Modern security consultants sell you a wireless indoor camera for $250 plus a monthly cloud subscription. It fails when the internet fails. The slit does not. And now the teased one, the one Homeland Security had to admit worked. Number 3. Rapid furniture barricading. Here it is, number 3. Push the heaviest object in the room against the door, the wood chest, the table, the barrel, and pin it there with body weight or a wedged chair. Farmwives were doing this by 1855. Every mother in every raid narrative from Missouri to Kansas to Arkansas did some version of it. And then, in 2013, the Department of Homeland Security published its active threat guidance. And inside that document, in official federal language, the government told the American public to barricade interior doors with heavy furniture as the second best protective action available. Not a new tactic, friend. 160 years old, endorsed by the same government whose building codes made the safe room too expensive to build in the first place. That's not a conspiracy. That's just how markets work. 2 left. The next one closes the tools loop. Number 2, the axe, within reach, always. Not the axe by the woodpile outside. The axe inside the safe room, sheathed, leaned against the wooden table between the barrel and the chair. Last resort tool. And this is where I hedge, because I need to say it plain. I'm not your lawyer. And the law in your county on defensive tools varies. And you need to know that before you set anything by any door. But your great-grandfather kept an axe within reach every night of his life. And every state in this country still recognizes the right of a person to defend a home. The axe was the tool, not the plan. The plan was every other thing on this count, and now the one that contains all of them. Number 1 is not a trick, friend. Number 1 is the thing every one of those 24 was pointing at. Your great-grandfather did not have a safe room. He had a sovereign house. A house where the water came off his own roof, where the food came off his own shelves, where the light came from a lamp he trimmed himself, and the heat came from wood he split himself, and the door had a barricade behind it, made of things he already owned, where he did not wait for a badge to arrive because he had already done the work that made the badge unnecessary in the first 15 minutes. Every hatch, every barrel, every jar, every quilt, every rug, every slit in the wall. They were not 24 tricks. They were 24 faces of one thing: sovereignty. The old man wasn't poor, he was sovereign. And Josiah Kettle's on that Kansas homestead in 1878, with 3 riders coming down the lane and his children in a hole under the rug, he met those men at his door with empty hands because he had already put every card he needed on the table before they got there. 2 of them turned around and rode off. The third asked for water and got a metal pitcher of it. Kettles buried nobody that day. He died in 1919 in his own bed in the house he had built with his own hands, and he left 3 grown children who all knew the trick of the hatch. That is what number 1 is. Not a room, a way of standing on your own ground. Before I let you go, hear me on this one. I'm not selling collapse. I'm handing you keys. I'm not telling you the sky's falling and the truck stopped next Tuesday. The old man never talked like that, and neither will I. Some of what we walk through today, the law looks at sideways in some counties, and you need to know your local rules on defensive tools and building code before you touch a saw or a hinge. I'll tell you where the line is. I won't tell you to cross it. Pick one. Just one. That's all I'm asking. Not 25. One. This week, hang one heavy quilt on hooks across your basement door and see how it changes the sound of your house. Or lay in a shelf of jars, water-bathed, tomatoes from the store on sale so your family has 14 days of food it doesn't have to drive for. Or walk your house tonight and pick the room farthest from every outside door. That's your safe room. Put a chair in it, a table, a lantern, a pitcher, a quilt. That's the whole thing. I ran the barricade drill in my own cabin last winter. Chair, chest, table. Timed myself. 90 seconds from a knock at the door. 90. That's a real number, friend, and it's cheaper than any alarm the industry ever sold me. Tell me down below, did your grandparents have a hatch, a cellar, a hidden door, a chair by the window? Which one? The one that gets the most comments down there is the one I dig into next. Your granddad knew every one of these. Somebody just didn't get the chance to hand them down to you. Now they're yours again. Don't let them die with you. Next time we sit down with a $2 hardware store item that used to lock every farm door in America. The piece of iron your great-grandfather could fit to any jam in 12 minutes. And the year the lock manufacturers got a federal standards board to make sure you'd never see one on a shelf again. There is a name on the patent. There is a year on the ruling. We'll walk it down together. If you found something on this count you want to carry forward, tap subscribe. The old ways don't come back on their own. They come back one keeper at a time. Now you're one of them. Keep the old ways. They kept